complete paradox. This simultaneity of function yields three more seemingly contradictory yet geometrically true relationships. The relationship of the root of the diagonal of the root, the relationship of the root, and the diagonal, and the relationship of the root and diagonal, and the root and diagonal. Between the two squares, it is always the exact same relationship. The second paradox lies in the fact that the half, that is the square that is divided and halved by the diagonal, produces the double. Fascinating, isn't it? As in the generation of a musical tone, or in the mystery of biological growth from cellular division. The half, cutting a square in half, gives rise to the double in volume in the second square. That is so fascinating. As it grows, the proportion remains the same. That's a geometric progression. That is, by definition, the geometric progression. And we'll see this in other aspects when we get to the Vesica Piscis and all kinds of other geometric shapes that we'll discuss in later videos. The square root of 2 is an irrational function. Absolutely. And it's universally applicable relationship. Since everything in the natural world undergoes change, this root, being invariant, is by definition supernatural or supra-rational, because it is a symbol of the archetypal realm. That is why it is a paradox in the physical world. That which is halved is the same as that which doubles. That which changes remains the same. That's fabulous, isn't it? That is so fascinating. No matter how vast the numerical relationships become, the proportion A is to B as B is to C always remains unchanged. Whether we go large or small is irrelevant through the bisection of a square. The square root of 2 thus represents the power of multiplicity, which can extend itself both towards unlimited expansion and toward utter minute finiteness. This figure perfectly represents the growth of cellular fission in living organisms. Not only the number, but the form proliferates from the divisions of unity. From the one comes the many. And of course, the imagery of the square root of 2, this division which causes growth, is in the root system of vegetal matter. That is the image. The root breaks down the nutrients, the chemicals, the minerals in the ground. They break them down in order for the plant to grow. It's a vegetal root theme. This is how life occurs and grows, whether in sacred geometry or out here in the real world with the roots of that tree and the roots of all these plants that you're seeing. It's a fascinating imagery. The mathematical function is associated with the vegetal root. It is causative. The form is embedded in the earth, and yet the form sprouts above the earth. The root causes the growth. The root diagonal line splitting the square in half causes the growth of squares larger and larger and larger. At the same time, like the vegetal root, the root of 2 contains the power of nature which destroys in order to progress. It severs the initial square. and it contains the power which instantly transforms 1 into 2. The plant grows progressively out of a previous breaking down. To seek the root is to return to the source. The square root of 2 is the geometric function which represents the universal metaphor of the root, and the root represents the principle of transformation. These are the meditations that we want to be thinking about as we perform, as you draw these squares and increase the squares, or decrease the squares, as the case may be. This is what you're doing. This is what is occurring out here in the world among us. This is what we're doing on paper to discover the laws, the proportions, the ratios, the harmonies that are the building blocks of nature. We are literally creating the universe. Now, I mean this literally, because what does a builder do before building a building? They create a blueprint, of course, using geometry. They draw out first, then it becomes physical buildings. Wood, metal, glass, stone, dirt, snow, ice. It's literal. Isn't that fascinating? Sacred geometry has a practical function as well as a deeply spiritual function. And it arises from pure paradox. That's so fascinating. We're used to thinking in our world, well, if there's a contradiction of something, then it's false. Sacred geometry teaches us something else. It is through the paradox that reality occurs. Lehi taught in the Book of Mormon, it is necessary that there is an opposition in all things, otherwise nothing could occur. By proving contraries, truth is made manifest. That is what Joseph Smith taught. I have proven to you in sacred geometry complete contraries, paradoxes, and yet you've seen the proofs. They really do work. You can see it with your eyes as you draw the roots and square roots of squares as they proliferate off into infinity. As you divide them in half, they grow. Utterly exquisite to think about when you're producing these. Everything is in a state of digestion, assimilation, and transmutation in the world. Everything. The transmutation and transformation goes on in every passing moment, as well as in the long eons of evolutionary cycles. There is a periodicity, a rhythm, an oscillation, a pattern, a frequency. All of these are measurable in time and space units. From one state to another, from one quality to another, we are always transforming. Let's philosophically raise square root to represent the principle of unity, or that quality of absolute unity. Square 2 can then likewise be extended to represent duality and the power of proliferation, that is multiplicity. When 1 becomes 2, we automatically have the potential for infinity. Vast proliferation from the one into the many, simply through the diagonal of the square. It has deep, profound meaning, doesn't it? Welcome to the world of sacred geometry.